It's Taylor Marshall. The Cardinal will kick Pope Francis out. Angel. Okay, let's watch Taylor Marshall. Okay? We're gonna watch it. Okay.
17 Catholic leaders have come forward and said, you know what? Pope Francis needs to resign. If he doesn't resign, the Cardinals should come together, try him for heresy and tyranny, and then begin a new conclave, elect a new pope. This is something that I've been discussing for, I think, about 2 years, based on the teaching of Saint Robert Bellarmine. So today we're going to look at the 17 leaders who have called for this drastic action. It's not every day you say, you know what? Pope needs to resign or Cardinals need to step up and can him, declare him deposed already by God. I might today, if we have extra time in the show, to talk about Bobby Kennedy. A lot of buzz and stir about Bobby Kennedy. Of course, he claims to be a Catholic, so that's kind of appropriate for our discussion today, perhaps. We have that time, and then we'll do a little question and answer, a little Q&A before we get started. My name is Dr. Taylor Marshall. Please like, subscribe, join, all those things. All right, and again, we will do some Q&A, so hang tight to the end. All right, what's going on? Well, this came out a couple days ago, and I'm going to rely, because John Henry Weston is one of the signers, he has, of course, on LifeSite News, the best presentation of it in a nicely formatted document. So if you want to read that, I would encourage you to go to lifesitenews.com, go into the Catholic section, and you'll see prominent Catholics urge bishops, cardinals to declare Francis has lost the papal office. I'll give you a screenshot of what it looks like so you know what to look for when you're over there. Here's what you're looking for. You're looking for, well, bam, that right there. All right? And I'm going to be relying on this today, and I will be taking your comments and questions throughout. So, right off the top, a group of 17 scholars and activists have released a lengthy statement calling for Pope Francis to resign or to be formally asked to resign by the College of Cardinals, stating that Francis has, quote, caused an unprecedented crisis in the Catholic Church by his words and actions. The 7 signatories attested that the Pope has done great harm to the Church and the whole world since 2013. Who are those who have signed? I will put it up on the screen so we can go down the list together. Hold tight while I pull that up. That's too big. Let's make it small, shall we? Yes. There we go. That's more bite size. All right. Father Linus Clovis, Yves Duodao, pardon me if I mispronounced that, Danielle Fulip, Maria Garini, Michael Kaluza, Thaddeus Kozinski, Dr. Peter Kwapneski, Dr. John Lamont, Dr. John Rists, Dr. Cesar Felix Sanchez Martinez. I'll make this a little bit bigger for myself here. Wolfram Schrems, Dr. Peter Steffen, Dr. Anna Silvas, John Henry Weston, Michael Watala, Elizabeth Yore, and Dr. John Smirnock. I know many of these people personally, and I think in general, what they are trying to accomplish is the same thing that I've been putting forward. That is, St. Robert Bellarmine says, if a pope were to be tyrannical or to manifestly teach heresy, the College of Cardinals, the Cardinals would come together and they would exhort him to clarify, explain, repent, change of heart, change of mind. And if after 2 or 3 admonitions, as St. Paul teaches, he is persistent in heresy or tyranny, they wouldn't have, according to Robert Bellman, now there are some Dominican Thomists prior to Vatican I who taught that a pope might be deposed, but the majority position, and certainly the position since Vatican I, is nobody, not a group of cardinals, not all the cardinals can depose the pope because the pope is judged by none except for God. So if a pope were to be a manifest heretic, if he were to be a tyrant, God would judge him and remove him from the see of Peter, in which case the cardinals would simply recognize that fact, because you can't be a non-Catholic and be the pope at the same time. That makes sense, doesn't it? It does make a lot of sense. So they released a statement. Again, you can get all this at Lifeside News. And it's a call for the resignation of Pope Francis, beginning on May 2nd, Feast of St. Athanasius. And it lists the crimes of Pope Francis. Crimes, first off, other than heresy. We're going to get to heresy. But it focuses, and I think this is an interesting strategy, and I'd love to hear the questions and comments from y'all. Focusing on the protection of criminal offenders, sex offenders, and the protection of cardinals like McCarrick, archbishops, priests, religious superiors who have been protecting criminal sex offenders. This goes back before his election as Pope, as Cardinal Bergoglio, and after his election as Pope. And so, for example, he talks about, and I don't want to go into, some of these are absolutely gruesome and heartbreaking. Father Julio Grassi, who ran Happy Children Homes for street children. Cardinal Gottfried Daniels, you've heard me talk about him a lot. He, of course, is the one who said there was a St. Gallen mafia that helped elect Pope Francis. That's a big part of my book, Infiltration. And again, it's not a conspiracy that I created in order to sell books. Sometimes you'll go on Twitter and you'll hear people say, oh, he created that conspiracy so he could sell books. No, you have a cardinal, Cardinal Daniels, who explicitly states that they met in St. Gallen, Switzerland, and called themselves a kind of mafia. He even shares what kind of theological revolution that they were trying to accomplish. All in his own words. So again, I didn't go and create a controversy to sell books. I documented a conspiracy, a controversy, and I've exposed it. And people are very angry about it. So that's one of them. We've got Cardinal Joseph de Kezel, Cardinal Marks, Cardinal Cormac Murphy O'Connor, Marandiaga. If you are a subscriber and you watch the Dr. Taylor Marshall podcast over the past 3-4 years, I have been detailing the crimes and the scandals related to every single name that we're covering today. Of course, ex-Cardinal McCarrick, Supich, Tobin, Gregory, McElroy, Worrell, and on and on and on. All right. It does not, Father Marco Rupnik, in his controversy with illicit activity with nuns coming forward. It does not take a genius, it does not take reading a book like mine, Infiltration, to say, I wonder if there's a problem in the Catholic Church with priests, nuns, monks, and even bishops and cardinals molesting minors and vulnerable people. It is a very gross, tragic, nasty situation. And you don't have to have a PhD. You don't need a research grant to figure this out. Now, people will say, well, actually, there is a higher per capita rate of sexual abuse in public schools than in the Catholic Church in the United States of America. That's actually factually true. But I never lean on that because we claim to be the one true church with the one true priesthood. we should have a rate of 0.0001%. Since when are we happy and congratulating ourselves and patting ourselves on the back? Wow, we're better than the public school as the Catholic Church. Wow, what a win. No, please, Catholics out there, please stop saying, well, we're actually better than the public schools. Public schools have more per capita abuse than we do. It's not the W that you think it is. Now, it does highlight the fact that more media is pushed against us, but you know what? We deserve that because we claim to be the one true church. And again, we should have a 0.0000% rate of abuse. They didn't talk about the idol Pachamama. They talk about the removal of good bishops, for example, Bishop Strickland and Bishop Fernandez. I think he was in Puerto Rico. The suppressing of the traditional Latin Mass, which is certainly tyrannical. The controversy about Amoris Laetitia, about adulterers being absolved and given the Eucharist. The non-liturgical blessings of adulterous and unnatural relationships. The collaboration with the Chinese government, which the Chinese bishops did not invite, did not want. Cardinal Zen goes to the doorstep of the Pope and tries to intervene, and he gets stiff-armed. So those are examples of tyranny, of, in some cases, criminal activity. And then the second part of this accusation against Pope Francis, which is demanding his resignation, or that the cardinals follow the protocols of Robert Bellarmine and declare him no longer the Pope. Not that they could depose him. See, there's the activity of removing him from the chair. It's my understanding, and the majority of theologians, that you can never remove a Pope by human intervention. God would remove a Pope if he were a heretic or a tyrant. Just like if a Pope went, for example, if a Pope hit his head on the curb and became mentally, he just said gibberish, or he was mentally insane, right? Suddenly he had schizophrenia or something like that. The papacy would be removed from him. So if he has mental illness, death, or he voluntarily and legitimately resigns the papal office. So this is saying that God would remove him from the papacy, and then it would be the role of the cardinals to say, just like it would be the role of the cardinals to say he's mentally unfit. The cardinals say, you know what, he is a heretic, he's been admonished, he can't be the Pope. God has either never given him the papacy or has removed the papacy. Does that make sense? I'm going to check in with y'all in the live chat and see if y'all are tracking with me. All right. A lot of people unhappy with Pope Francis. But some people saying he's insane. But it looks like people are tracking on it, so that's good. Now it moves on to the heresies. The first example is that acts that violate divine commandments and great manners can nevertheless be morally good and acceptable to God. This is just relativism, right? So if I do something that is gravely, gravely evil, but I do it for a good reason, some heretical theologians will say that's fine. If you're doing it for what you think is a good reason, it's perfectly morally acceptable. So if someone says, I don't want to go to Mass. I know it's a precept of the church to go to Mass on Sundays. I'm not going to go to church. Because you know what? In my heart of hearts, I think that reading a good novel by the fireplace is my best form of worship to God. If I just get a really good novel, something Bronte, Dickens, get a toasty fire going, a nice cup of Earl Grey tea, put a little organic, natural honey in there, and just cuddle up by the fire with my dog. I've got a dog. That in my heart of hearts, that's how I'm going to worship God, and so I'm going to skip Mass. These heretical theologians say, well, that's actually legitimate. You can actually do that. If you think that you're going to substitute something in the moral law for something better, even if you don't, it's not correct, but you think it's correct, then it's not a sin. Here's another one. Guy says, I just love playing golf. Every time I play golf, I just worship the Lord. So beautiful. The green lawn, the sand bunkers, the trimmed putting greens, the swoosh of the driver. That's how I worship God. So I'm not going to go to Mass. I'm going to skip Mass. And I'm going to go play golf. That's fine. Or I know abortion is wrong. Should not do that, but I want to get a college degree, and college degrees are really important. So college, I'm going to pursue the college degree. This is a necessary sacrifice, but I'm willing to pay it because I need to get the college degree. This would make a person not culpable for the sin, all right? This is called relativism. This is not what we believe as Christians. It's not what is taught in the Bible. So an example of this given by the document is that adulterous relations can be morally good. And they cite Amoris Laetitia 301 and 303. And then they go on the next section, they say not only that, but adultery, fornication, and homosexual relations can be morally good. Another example they bring is that the death penalty is always and everywhere morally wrong. Hold on, I hear my dog. Y'all want me to see my dog? I'll get the dog. Hello. That's Daisy. Daisy, you want to read a novel by the fire? My sidekick is Daisy. She's kind of dirty. She's been out at the homestead. The death penalty is always wrong. Say son. Say Francis. But yet, how can you have that when there's so many popes who have taught that the death penalty is not just okay, it's not just allowed, it's not just illicit, but the death penalty is actually a good thing. It's a deterrent of evil. It is, I don't know what the right word is here. It is the proper penance for certain crimes, for certain sins. That makes sense? Moving on in the document, that some Catholic dogmas can be claimed or can be rejected as false. So this is in response to the dubia of Cardinals Brandmüller, Burke, Sandoval, and Serra and Zen. This is from July 2023. Pope Francis says, both the texts of the scriptures and the testimonies of tradition require interpretation in order to distinguish their perennial substance from cultural conditioning. This is evident, for example, in biblical texts. This is Francis, by the way, saying this. And in some magisterial interventions that tolerated slavery. He gives an example, Pope Nicholas V, the Duma Versus, 1452. This is not a minor issue given its intimate connection with the perennial truth of the inalienable dignity of the human person. These texts need interpretation. The same applies to certain considerations of the New Testament regarding women and other texts of scripture and testimonies of tradition that cannot be materially repeated today. So he's saying that we can, over time, reject Catholic teaching. He says, look, we don't do slavery anymore. So because of that, we can also begin to, push the margin on some other things. These again are the examples given by the 17 Catholic leaders for examples of heresy in Francis. They also say that passages in Scripture can be rejected as false. So let's go to the mechanism here. I'm going to scroll to the bottom. Action to be taken in response to the crimes of Pope Francis. Now, by the way, I'm interested in hearing from y'all here because we're talking about crimes, not just like, I don't like Pope Francis's liturgical style. I don't like his vestments. I don't like his Pope mobile. The accusation here is crimes. He has committed crimes against the faith. And in case you're just coming in and joining us, please like it. On Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, we're up to almost 5,000 live right now. In case you're just joining us, there was a document released over the last couple days of 17 scholars who have said that Francis must resign or be declared deposed by the Cardinals, and they call upon the Cardinals. It's a similar call that I've been having for 2 years to the Cardinals, a direct appeal. Now more and more people are like, you know what, we just need to keep saying this. So we're going through the charges of crime, which largely relate to protecting cardinals, bishops, priests, monks, and nuns who have either actually done sexual abuse or have covered it up, and how Francis has facilitated that by his appointments and also by covering up. I think McCarrick would be perhaps one of those examples. You may say, well, yeah, but Sailor, Pope Francis laicized McCarrick, so booyah, checkmate. Well, let me explain this to you. As soon as a cardinal or a bishop or a priest is laicized, that is, he is stripped of the clerical state, he no longer falls under the canon law of a cleric. It makes him to be tried in canon law like me and you, lay people. That's a bad thing. That's a cop-out. What Pope Francis did is by laicizing Cardinal McCarrick, he removed him from any ecclesiastical punishment or measures in canon law. Do you see the problem there? There were a lot of prominent Catholics who were like, yes, awesome. Pope Francis nailed it. He laicized. Oh wow, you made McCarrick, basically you gave him the canonical standing of a layman. A, that's not a punishment, otherwise you're saying being a layperson is a punishment. And then you're also just removing him from any further punishments. And that's no good. Is it, Daisy? It's not good. So we're dealing here with crimes. And I want to hear from y'all in the live chat in the comments below. Do you believe Pope Francis Bergoglio has committed crimes that merit him resigning or being declared vacant of the Holy See? This is a whole other topic, different from did Benedict really resign? Was the 2013 conclave that elected Bergoglio valid, etc.? People are saying yes in the comments. Yes, yes, yes. Tina says, I'm sorry I'm coming in late. What's the document regarding? So we're talking about a document that was signed by 17 Catholic leaders and scholars. You can see their names over here, who have said that Pope Francis must resign because of his heresies and crimes, or that the cardinals must meet together and declare him as having lost the papacy due to heresy and crimes. So you can read the whole thing over at LifeSite News. And John Henry Weston is one of the commentators. I'm going to jump into Q&A, and while y'all get prepared for Q&A, I'm going to ask y'all, what do y'all think about Bobby Kennedy? Talk about Bobby Kennedy. he is definitely gaining a lot of traction. There's a lot of conservatives that like him. They like him because of what he said about the hokey poke injection and other medical treatments, and the crimes of the big pharma. So a lot of people like Bobby Kennedy on that. Bobby Kennedy says he's a Catholic, presents himself as a Catholic, but of course he does line up on the moral issues with the also self-proclaimed Catholic Joe Biden. Legitimate, illegitimate, talk amongst yourself. I want to hear from y'all on these two topics. Should Francis resign, according to 17 clerics right here? And what do y'all think about Bobby Kennedy, and what do y'all think about the upcoming election? Who's going to be our president in less than 12 months? All right, here's a strong opinion coming in. Whoa, Daisy, what are you doing? You can't be hitting the keyboard. You're gonna be my sidekick. This guy says RFK Jr. is a con man. I wonder, I don't know, he seems kind of solid on certain things, but on others, not as much. Here's other people saying he's a fraud. People saying, check your mic. Did you turn the mic off, Daisy? I know, you gotta roll. Let me check the mic. Sometimes when you have a puppy as a sidekick, it can affect your mics. Mic seems good. Mic looks good on my side. Hopefully, Daisy didn't mess up the mic. Susie's saying check your mic. Mic check, 1, 2. Mic check. So here's MMH AC. He must step down. All right, that's one take going on here. Yes, Psalm 51 says Daisy wants to give you her opinion. I'll tell you right now, she agreed with me 100% on everything. Don't you? She left. She agrees with me entirely. We see eye to eye. Everybody's saying the mic is good. Thank you very much. By the way, there's sometimes up to a 2-second delay between me and you. So notice that sometimes I'll ask a question. It'll take me a couple seconds to get some feedback. All right, Bobby Kennedy, legit, illegit. Oh, here we go. Philip Blair, he's coming in saying RFK is a tool of the military-industrial complex. Interesting. Hadn't thought of him that way. Giovanni says it sounds good, like 2005 wants its desktop webcam mic back. Good. Yeah, this is the old look, guys. You recognize the background? Old school. Who's going to be president in 12 months? Here's Sylvia. She says Bobby Kennedy is pro-A. I don't like that. He's Catholic and does go against moral truth. And this kind of comes back to the Pope Francis question, doesn't it? We've got this understanding in Catholicism in America and in Europe that if you don't want to believe what the church has taught, there will be popes, cardinals, priests, and bishops who will just say, that's cool. You do you. And this is what we call cafeteria Catholicism. In America, we have this restaurant called Luby's. And at Luby's, you walk in and you get a tray. And you move along this enormous buffet. And you'll start off and you'll see some soups. You can grab a little bowl. You can get the broccoli cheddar soup. You can get the chicken noodle soup. Right? You'll see some bread. They got some cornbread, some yeast rolls. You grab yourself some of that. Then you'll start seeing the entrees. They might have